We live in a world people broadcast their lives as if every moment were a television episode. Instagram stories, Twitter updates, LinkedIn announcements. Everywhere you look, people are performing their identities for an audience. And yet, strangely, while the external noise grows louder, people's internal strength seems to weaken. The Stoics, ancient philosophers who lived nearly 2,000 years ago, understood something our modern society often forgets. Privacy is power. To live deliberately, to live wisely, to live with strength, you must learn when to be silent and when to reveal nothing. The video we're reflecting on makes this point beautifully, but here I want to go further. I want to take you deeper into why privacy is not only protection, but also fuel for success. This essay will be divided into chapters, each of which examines one of the Stoic lessons on silence and privacy, supported with personal reflections, practical strategies, and modern analogies. By the end, you'll see why oversharing is the enemy of progress, why silence sharpens your focus, and why guarding your personal life can transform you into someone unshakable in a noisy, shallow world. Chapter 1: Privacy as Power, Not Weakness. The world often equates openness with strength. Social media rewards confessions and vulnerability with likes, comments, and instant validation. People are told the more you share, the more authentic you are. But ask yourself, authentic to whom? If your authenticity is a performance for strangers, is it authenticity at all? The Stoic Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire yet never published his struggles. His journal Meditations was a private notebook, not meant for public consumption. He wrote to refine himself, not to gather applause. Privacy is not hiding. Privacy is stewardship. It is the act of protecting your inner citadel, your thoughts, your struggles, your growth, from the erosion of outside judgment. I have learned this lesson personally. In my 20s, I felt compelled to explain everything, my career goals, my relationships, my setbacks. I believed openness was a form of strength. But what I didn't realize was that every disclosure gave away a piece of my inner foundation. Some people responded with indifference, others with judgment, and some even weaponized my openness against me. Now in my 30s, I understand privacy is not weakness, it is selective strength. The less you feel the need to explain, the more grounded you become. Chapter 2: The Lantern and the Flame. The video uses a brilliant metaphor. A flame in an open field flickers and dies in the wind, but inside a lantern, it burns steadily through the night. Your ambition, your vision, your personal growth, these are flames. Expose them too soon to public scrutiny, and they flicker. Protect them with privacy, and they become a guiding light. Think about a seed. If you dig it up every day to show your friends how it's growing, it will never take root. Growth requires darkness, soil, and patience. The same is true of your dreams. When I was writing my first long-form essay, I made the mistake of announcing it too early. Friends asked me how it was going, others gave me suggestions I hadn't asked for, and eventually I felt suffocated. I lost momentum. Compare that to projects I worked on silently. They grew in strength, unbothered by outside opinions, until they were ready to be shared as complete. The Stoics would say, guard your flame until it is strong enough to withstand the wind. Chapter 3: Selective Silence. Is sovereignty. Not everyone deserves to know your plans, your struggles, or your goals. Selective silence is not deception. It is sovereignty, the ability to govern your own life without unnecessary interference. Oversharing is often mistaken for connection. We think, if I tell my friends, family, colleagues everything, they will support me. But the truth is sobering. Many people are not equipped to hold your truth. Some will dismiss it, some will gossip, some will inject their doubts into your vision until you begin doubting yourself. Silence protects sovereignty. It allows you to lead without asking permission, to pursue goals without external pressure. A personal example: when I made a major career shift, I told almost no one. The silence gave me space to experiment, fail, and refine. Only when my results were undeniable did I share. And by then, there was no debate to be had. The transformation was complete. Lesson: not every truth needs an audience. What you withhold is often what strengthens you. Chapter 4: The Emotional Debt of Oversharing. Oversharing feels good in the moment. It gives relief, like releasing steam from a pressure valve. But later, it leaves behind emotional debt. You know the feeling. You confide in someone about a struggle, only to feel exposed afterward. You replay the conversation, wondering what they think of you. You regret giving them power over your story. That regret is the interest payment on the emotional debt of oversharing. Stoic philosopher Epictetus warned, "Better to trip with the feet than the tongue." Once spoken, words cannot be retrieved, and when they are spoken carelessly, they weaken you. In my own experience, I've noticed that oversharing depletes energy. It's like withdrawing from an emotional bank account. But not every listener deposits back. Some listen to judge, others to compare, a few to gossip. Rarely do you find someone who can hold your truth responsibly. This is why discernment is critical. Oversharing is not authentic, it is energy leakage. Chapter 5. Silence as Armor and Strategy. Silence is often misunderstood as repression. People assume if you withhold your struggles, you must be cold or distant. But the Stoics taught that silence is armor, not armor that hardens you, but armor that protects your purpose. Without silence, you become reactive. Every question, every opinion, every criticism pulls you off course. With silence, you conserve energy for deliberate action. Think of a general planning a battle. Would he reveal his strategy to the enemy before the fight? Of course not. Strategy thrives in silence. When I began practicing intentional silence, pausing before responding, withholding details of my plans, I noticed something remarkable. People began respecting me more. My words carried greater weight, precisely because they were rare. Powerful people don't need to speak often. Their silence speaks for them. Chapter 6. Talking Too Soon. The Mirage of Achievement. Here we arrive at one of the most counterintuitive lessons. Talking about your goals too soon can rob you of the motivation to achieve them. Psychologists have studied this effect. When you announce a goal, your brain releases dopamine, the same neurotransmitter that fires when you accomplish something. In other words, by talking about the goal, you trick your brain into thinking it's already done. The result? The urgency fades. The fire cools. You lose momentum before you even begin. This is why Stoic wisdom advises against premature announcement. As Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, don't waste what remains of your life in speculation about others unless you want to throw away what is yours. Glasp's insight confirms this. Those who keep goals private often achieve more because they avoid the false satisfaction of being praised for intentions rather than results. Glasspeak.co. I've seen this happen in my own life. When I once declared a fitness goal on social media, I received applause instantly. Ironically, that applause replaced the need for discipline. I never reached the goal. Later, when I quietly trained for a marathon without telling anyone, the transformation was profound. I crossed the finish line with no audience, but with genuine victory. Chapter 7. Protecting Vision. Before exposure. Every vision begins in silence. A blueprint left in the rain smudges. An idea revealed too early bends to fit external opinions. Your vision needs protection in its infancy. Share it too soon, and it warps under the weight of feedback. People will project their fears onto you, reshaping your dream into something smaller, safer, less authentic. This is why some of the greatest innovators, writers, inventors, leaders protect their early work fiercely. They know that outside opinions can dilute originality. When I was writing a book, I showed an early draft to a friend. His well-meaning feedback crushed my enthusiasm. He didn't understand what I was trying to build, and his doubts infected me. Only later did I realize it wasn't his fault. It was mine, for exposing something fragile before it was strong enough to withstand criticism. The Stoic principle here is clear. Don't mistake premature exposure for progress. Protect your vision until it is ready. Chapter 8. Discernment over access. Not every person in your life deserves access to your inner world. In fact, most do not. Epictetus taught that the wise man filters what he shares, not from fear, but from sovereignty. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, confided primarily in himself and his journal. He knew that even the closest advisors could not always be trusted with his deepest thoughts. Today, people confuse access with intimacy. We assume if someone knows everything about us, they must be close. But real intimacy isn't built on oversharing, it's built on loyalty, respect, and depth. Over time, I've come to value discernment. The fewer people who know my struggles, the clearer my own voice becomes. By limiting access, I preserve autonomy. And interestingly, I find that the relationships I do choose to trust become deeper. They are built not on oversharing, but on mutual respect. Chapter 9, External Noise and the Lake Metaphor. The video uses another excellent metaphor. Your mind is like a lake. Still water reflects perfectly, but throw in stones, opinions, comments, criticism, and the surface distorts. This is the cost of external noise. When you share too much, you invite ripples. Soon, you can't see clearly. The Stoics practiced filtering. They avoided reacting impulsively to outside voices. Epictetus advised pausing before speaking or responding, that just as a soldier guards the gate. I've tried a simple practice. Whenever I receive strong feedback, I wait 24 hours before responding. This delay allows the emotional sediment to settle. Often the clarity I find after stillness is different from my immediate reaction. This is why silence is not absence, it is strategy. It allows you to act deliberately rather than react impulsively. Chapter 10, Stillness as Strategy. In our culture, talking has replaced doing. People announce intentions, share struggles, post milestones, but less often they embody discipline in silence. Stillness in this context is not about retreating from life. It's about radical focus. It's about refusing to confuse noise with progress, attention with achievement. The most magnetic individuals are often the most silent. They let results speak. They don't chase recognition. They become undeniable through proof. When I think of the strongest people I know, none of them are loud about their struggles or ambitions. They move in silence, but with weight. And when they do speak, people listen. That is the Stoic way, to stop chasing applause and start embodying discipline. Chapter 11, Guarding the Mind, the Stoic Fortress. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." Privacy at its core is not merely physical, but psychological. A person may sit alone in a quiet room yet still lack privacy if their mind is noisy with external judgments, imagined criticisms, or obsessive comparisons. The Stoics urged us to treat the mind as a fortress with gates that must be carefully guarded. In practice, this means controlling what we allow in. Information diet. Not all news, gossip, or opinions deserve entry into our minds. Just as we avoid unhealthy food, we should also avoid mental junk. Emotional filters. When insults or provocations arise, Epictetus advised it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By filtering judgments, we protect the sanctity of our inner life. Daily reflection. Seneca recommended an evening review of the day, not to wallow in mistakes, but to secure mental clarity and peace. A fortress does not isolate itself from the world forever. It opens its gates for trade, dialogue, and growth, but it does so selectively. Privacy is not withdrawal from life, it is discernment. Chapter 12, The Ethics of Withdrawing when Silence Becomes Compassion. Some may accuse privacy-seeking individuals of selfishness. In fact, the opposite is true. Silence can be an act of compassion. Consider these scenarios. Avoiding harm. Speaking rashly in anger may wound another irreparably. Remaining silent spares them pain. Preventing escalation. Silence can halt conflict where words would fan flames. As the Stoics observed, contention is often fueled by ego, not necessity. Creating space. By stepping back, we give others freedom to process, grow, or find solutions without interference. True Stoic silence is not cold detachment, but benevolent restraint. It reflects humility, recognition that our opinions are not always needed and our involvement may not always help. Chapter 13, Modern Distractions. The Assault on Silence. If the Stoics fought to guard silence in noisy Roman forums, imagine their response to today's digital environment. The constant buzzing of notifications, endless news cycles, and pressure to share every thought online are direct assaults on privacy. The modern world monetizes distraction. Attention has become currency and silence a form of rebellion. To live stoically today requires radical choices. Digital fasting, regular breaks from devices mirror the Stoic practice of voluntary discomfort. They remind us that silence is restorative, not threatening. Selective sharing. In an age of oversharing, choosing not to post is an assertion of sovereignty over one's life. Cultivating boredom. Where modernity fears stillness, the Stoics valued it. Moments of boredom are fertile ground for creativity and self-discovery. By reclaiming silence, we reclaim ourselves. Chapter 14, Boundaries as Strength. Learning to say no. Privacy is impossible without boundaries. The Stoics were not people-pleasers. They valued virtue above popularity. Saying no is not rejection of others, but affirmation of one's values. Seneca's wisdom. He cautioned against scattering time across trivial pursuits. Every unnecessary commitment is theft from the self. Practical application. This means declining gossip, declining constant availability, and declining roles that do not align with our deeper purpose. Resilience. Each no strengthens the inner core, just as muscles strengthen under resistance. In contrast, those who never set boundaries become prisoners of other people's demands. Their lives are public property, devoid of privacy. The Stoic way is deliberate, principled refusal. Chapter 15, The Silent Teacher. Nature's privacy. Stoics often retreated to nature. Epictetus advised students to walk alone, observing the simplicity of the natural order. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the cycles of seasons, rivers, and stars. Why? Because nature teaches privacy without words. A tree grows silently, unconcerned with approval. A river flows privately, without broadcasting its course. Silence in nature is not emptiness, but strength. In our modern life, reconnecting with natural silence is essential. Walking alone in a park, sitting by the sea, or even gazing at the night sky resets the mind. It teaches us that privacy is not isolation, but harmony with what is eternal. Chapter 16, The Courage to be Misunderstood. One of the greatest obstacles to privacy and silence is the fear of being misunderstood. We often over-explain ourselves, justify our choices, and reveal more than necessary in an effort to gain approval. The Stoics remind us it is not necessary to explain everything. If someone misinterprets our silence as weakness, arrogance, or detachment, that is their judgment, not our burden. Epictetus would say, if you wish to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Privacy requires courage, the courage to let others form opinions while we remain anchored in truth. Chapter 17, Practicing Stoic Silence, Daily Exercises. To integrate Stoic privacy into daily life, here are exercises. Morning vow of silence. Spend the first hour of the day without speaking or digital communication. Let thoughts settle naturally. Selective disclosure. When tempted to share personal news, ask, does this serve virtue or vanity? Evening reflection. Review interactions. Did you speak out of necessity or compulsion? Where could silence have served better? Weekly solitude ritual. Dedicate one evening to being alone, reading, journaling, or walking without external noise. Digital gatekeeping. Before consuming media, ask, will this strengthen or weaken my inner fortress? Over time, these practices transform silence from an occasional retreat into a way of life. Chapter 18, Toward a Stoic Culture of Privacy. A Stoic life is not only personal, but communal. Imagine a culture where privacy and silence are respected, not feared. Conversations would be intentional, not filler. Social media would be mindful, not compulsive. Friendships would be deep, not shallow. In such a culture, privacy is not secrecy, but dignity. Silence is not absence, but presence. Stoicism offers a timeless blueprint for building this kind of society, beginning with individuals who embody its virtues. Final reflection. The power of hidden depths. The Stoics knew that the deepest rivers flow silently. Likewise, the most powerful lives often appear quiet, modest, and private. Yet, within that quietude lies resilience, creativity, and wisdom. In a world obsessed with noise, to cultivate silence is an act of strength. In a society that commodifies attention, to guard privacy is an act of resistance. The Stoics do not call us to isolation, but to mastery. Mastery over what we share, when we speak, and where we rest our minds. Ultimately, privacy and silence are not escapes from life, but preparations for living it more fully. They sharpen our judgment, deepen our relationships, and ground us in what cannot be taken away, our character. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. Let us build that retreat daily, patiently and bravely.